my friend, One Piece on I will be on. I think it's up. I don't know.
Let's see how much you got.
Unless it's going on. I think it's up. Let me see. The ultimate test. I think it's up. Keep going with it, because yes. Okay. So we will be doing. So the categories we will be covering are going to be main character growth, main character battles, which will be piece is Luffy's story, but it is also the story of the Straw Hat Pirates.
That's right.
Therefore, he cannot use the fight between Frankie and Sasuke as a side character battle, which is another topic we're doing. He can do it as a main if he thinks that is the best main character fight in the series. Next up, we have side character battles. Like I said, he can't pick Frankie versus Sasuke or anyone, but there will be one stipulation to a side character battle. If the side character battle later on in the fight has one of the main, like for him, one of the main Straw Hats join in later on in the fight, then it will count. However, the main Straw Hat cannot be in the fight at the beginning for it to count as a side character battle.
I think I've already got a couple of good ideas.
Next up, pacing. How well does Oda or Kubo pace his story? For this, we have to look at it with editors' interference, because both series had quite a bit of interference from their respective editors. And it's nothing against the authors, it's more trying to get their content out so that way, like, the publications aren't falling behind. Next up, paneling. How well do certain scenes fit the panels that they show up in? Like, if it's an impactful scene, is it in a big panel or is it in a small one? How well is the shading in that panel? All that. We're gonna try and pick one of the best panels that we can remember off the top of our heads. Next up, biggest training payoff for the main protagonist. So for this, I will be looking at what Ichigo's prominent training, in my opinion, is, and how well that pays off. Training, it has to be training with like a teacher or something. Next up, arc structure. How well does the author structure their arcs? Does it start off good? Is the climax good? Does it have a satisfying or well-written ending? We're gonna have to pick the best arc and compare the two. However, for this, it's gonna be harder on Logan because he cannot pick the Wano arc, because the Wano arc in One Piece is still going on. Therefore, there is no end to compare to a Bleach arc. So the most recent arc he can do is
Whole Cake Island arc.
There we go. After arc structure, we will be doing how well the power levels work, or power creep. So basically, is it realistic if a weaker character can catch up to a stronger character, or so on and so forth?
Does this come for an MC, or does it have to be strictly side characters?
It can be any character in the entire series that you think either had really good power creep or like is the epitome of just bad power, like power structure. And finally, emotional ties. How well does the author make you feel for their characters? Like, does a certain character removal actually impact you? Or are you just like, oh, I didn't like that character. Yeah, he had a really cool backstory. I just don't care. That's what we're going to be basically doing. And because because there are no good PlayStation 4 Bleach games because stupidity, and because I don't have World Seeker downloaded, we're playing My Hero Academia 1's Justice 2, and I do have every character unlocked with the exception of the newest character Shinso and that entire season pass. I do also have the Three Musketeers costume packs. So how we're gonna start it off, we're gonna take turns fighting an easy computer, and then once the other controller is charged up, then we're going to fight each other while still trying to talk about One Piece and Bleach. And if I can get him to agree that, hey, this thing is better in this section, Bleach gets a point. If he can persuade me, One Piece gets a point. And whichever one has the most points will be deemed the better series out of us two. So, and then after this one, if you want, just leave a comment below which two series you want me personally to compare, or me and him, or me or anyone to compare, and I'll do my best. So, first off, we're going to start with main character growth. So how well does the main protagonist grow throughout the entire series?
Better get your reps in.
Logan, do you want to start? Since you're not playing, then that way you can focus on yours.
Yeah. So does this have to be strictly just one main character,
So
or in the case of like the entire, like all the Straw Hats?
So you have to pick. You can pick whichever of the main Straw Hats that you think has the best character growth that you think could beat one of my main characters' character growths. So basically, you're trying to win me.
Of this topic, I will go with Luffy.
Okay. So explain how Luffy has the better character to. Basically, explain Luffy's character growth.
Well, at the start of the series, he's portrayed as being a rather carefree person, which to this day he still is. But like he's learned that
How about choosing a stage?
that the further along they go along the Grand Line, they're not going to be as carefree. Like they actually had to fight. Like they said to. But actually,
Bring the smiles back.
hang on. Let me.
Behold, dear viewers, a romantic takes the stage.
Essentially, Luffy has grown from being a carefree person to, like, with like a heart of gold, to being a carefree person with a heart of gold and a will to
Little by little.
actually try to protect his friends, because.
Change of plans.
And I actually discovered this recently. Like, one of his biggest insecurities is that it's like the moments where he's not able to protect those that he cares about. Like, he's always wanting to try to fight. He's always wanting to try to fight for those that he cares about.
I'm elated, even at my force.
Too slow. I won't take it.
Anything else?
What do you think
Honestly, I'm kind of too busy watching this.
is the finale?
Alright, so now I'm not gonna pick this. So for Bleach, I'm not gonna pick Ichigo.
Yeah?
Because personally, yes, Ichigo does have the, head main character. However, the other main characters do consist of Rukia, Ichigo, and Uryu Ishida. Therefore, I'm going to pick Rukia as a good description of good character growth in Bleach.
Yeah?
So, Rukia comes from the Kutsuki family, which is one of the main noble clans in the Seireitei. And her brother Byakuya is like very hardcore, like stick to the rules, like very gung ho to that. So, when she's willing to save Ichigo in the beginning of the very beginning of the story, like save him and give him power to save his family, you already start to see like unestablished rules that have yet to be established already start to like crumble. And yes, in the process, she loses her powers because they all get transferred into Ichigo. She then, in order to save Ichigo, she is willing to allow herself to be executed to pay for her crimes. But even while she is being saved by Ichigo, she is still trying to persuade Ichigo, leave. Just let me do this. You don't need to be punished for what I did. This has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
So after the entire retrieval arc of Rukia, she then proceeds to off-screen stay in the Soul Society to get her power back. Couple weeks, months later, she gets her powers back, and then comes the Arrancar arc. She becomes more comfortable with like helping out Ichigo and all them. She's more willing to like explain more about why Byakuya and why the other captains did what they did. So she becomes more comfortable with her own powers. So as the Arrancar arc progresses, she then gets into a fight with the 9th Espada, Aranero Arurareri, which can, as long as he is in shade, he can transform into basically anyone using his power of Gluttoneria. And he turns into Kaien Shiba, her old assistant captain in the 13th Company. And the entire fight, she is holding on to her personal feelings of, I'm the reason that Kaien died. Yes, I know this is a fake, but I'm still going to let him kill me to pay for my crimes that I did. She still had that mindset to willingly sacrifice herself so that way she could she could give that person closure, even if in this case it wasn't actually Kaien. But eventually she breaks free of that like mental block, and she's able to surpass herself and take out the 9th Espada. Then comes the Fullbring arc, where after Ichigo beats Aizen, she then comes back later on and properly gives Ichigo back his powers instead of a Fullbring like Execution was giving him. She yet again managed to persuade the head captain, who is the leader of the Soul Society, to use all of the captain's powers to give that back to Ichigo for everything he's done for the Soul Society and the world of the living. So she was able to persuade someone who is so dead set in his ways to actually change those ways to save someone who accidentally saved them. And then comes the 1000-Year Blood War arc. She ends up getting really like beat up. It's somewhat off screen, but somewhat not. She then, after she loses her fight, she then trains with the Zero Division and their royal palace, and then she finally gets access to her Bankai. And after her training, she goes back down to the Soul Society finds the person who almost killed her brother Byakuya and proceeds to like take that final step to become an actual like fully fleshed out character by completely like fighting for her beliefs, not sacrificing her life to pay for some crime. She's willing to sacrifice herself by using her Bankai for the first time, which like freezes everything, including her like Reiatsu. She's willing to sacrifice her life to to beat Byakuya's killer. Well, killer. So she ends up doing that, and then at the end of Bleach, we see her captain of the 13th Division and married to Renji.
Hesitating isn't manly.
So next up, we're gonna go to main character battles. So you have to pick any of the main Straw Hats battles that you think is the best in the entire series. And then at the end of all of these, we will come back to each one and we'll say which one had the better development.
And this doesn't include anything in Wano, right?
No Wano.
Okay.
Well, so the fights can include Wano for this. Just when we get to arc, like the arc structure, you cannot, because Wano is not done yet.
And this is all completely like what I think, right? Like not what everyone else thinks.
Right, this is your personal thoughts.
Decide.
I really want to go with the most recent big battle that was fought. Like for me, like the best character fight was possibly,
My
And-
fate is to go above.
and this was definitely, and I think everyone else can agree, like Luffy versus Katakuri.
Let me show you
Because-
real speed.
'Cause essentially, it was a battle between men who had a lot of respect for one
The stage
another.
can change.
So at first, when I saw Katakuri, I thought that he was just some badass who didn't. He really cares about his comrades and his family, and so at first, Katakuri really thought of Luffy as some sort of nuisance that he really needed to get rid of in post haste, so he doesn't ruin anything for Big Mom. And during the start of their fight, he actually shows that he's definitely a lot better than Luffy. But as we all know, Luffy, he always finds a way to bounce back, literally. And even with Katakuri's high level of haki, Luffy's still able to show a lot of endurance, even with his powers being negated by armament. And it's right around when Katakuri is first seen without his mask, without his scarf on, that I think Luffy starts to gain a little bit of respect for the guy. Because he actually found an opening, because he actually saw an opening for him to attack. And that's only when Katakuri is really angry. And that's only when Katakuri loses his cool because of his advanced observation haki. But ultimately, what made them respect each other was when Flambe attacks Luffy from the sidelines, and he is sent with that numbing needle.
Okay.
And when Katakuri attacks him with the spear, he notices something is off. And through a little bit of detective work, he deduces that it was Flambe who sent out that needle. And so he does the one thing that really caught me and a lot of other people off guard. He actually stabbed himself in the stomach. So essentially he was matching his own HP level to Luffy's HP level.
Okay.
And essentially so then what he did was, like, he took his scarf off, he took his scarf back off to show Flambe what he really looks like underneath, because a lot of people really look up to Katakuri. Even though it's revealed later that not all of that is true. Like, he does... Like, he actually has, like, a sort of, deformment, like, on his face. Like his jaw is a pelican eel's jaw. And that essentially scares the living crap out of Flambe, and it loses her... He does lose her respect, but he does gain Luffy's respect. Because essentially in a duel between pirates, there are no rules. But even those kind of guys have some form of honor. Like, they don't... Because there's another thing that he and Luffy have in common. They don't like it when other people interrupt their fights. That's why they decided to knock everyone out in the mirror world with their Conqueror's Haki. And a little towards the end of the fight, Luffy tries to do the same thing. Like, I think he respects Katakuri so much that he wanted to try, like, advancing his own haki, his own observation haki, so that he can match him. And very slowly, Luffy does start to get better. Like, to the point that even Katakuri starts to notice. And right around, like, after they knock everybody out, like, he concedes that he's on the same level as him. And right around when Luffy actually starts using observation haki of his own, like, they actually acknowledge, like, in the future, like they're gonna go no holds barred.
Here to buy.
And right around when they do, like, their huge attacks, like King Cobra and the Buzzsaw Mochi, they both deal, like, an equally huge blow. And they both show to be still standing. And right before Katakuri falls, he asks Luffy if he's actually gonna try to beat Big Mom. Which of course he says yes, and he actually acknowledges him. Like, he actually acknowledges that goal. And of course, like, right after he says that, he just falls right on his back. And the penultimate thing to the amount of respect that Luffy has for him is taking off his fedora and placing it on his face. Well,
Okay.
Are you convinced?
It's kind of weird looking, by the way.
What? Oh dear. Oh dear lord.
Yeah.
It's like an alternate universe where Deku is Shigaraki and Shigaraki is Deku.
Yeah.
Like the villain Deku and hero Shigaraki.
There's actually really a bunch of...
And keep in mind, I'm not that very good at, like, discussing, like, keeping, like, a lot of straight facts in order. So yeah. I'm just kind of like juggling around all these facts. Essentially, I am improvising.
Okay. So, for my main character, I'd probably have to pick... So I will pick an Ichigo fight. He has a lot of really good fights, but the one that stands out to me the most would actually have to be versus Ulquiorra in like the entire like. So for Ichigo versus Ulquiorra, for that I am counting atop the canopy. So where he does go like Vassal Lorde Ichigo, and Ulquiorra does Segunda Etapa for his Resurrection. So the reason why this fight is Ichigo is one of like out of it, the 3 fights that I can think of right now that are his best fights. Why this takes the number 1 spot is because we have seen Ichigo like give his all to save his friends. He knows after like fighting Grimmjow, like, hey, if Ulquiorra is number 4 and Grimmjow is number 6, I might actually have a hard time in this fight, but I need to fight him in order to save Orihime. So knowing that he is most likely going to lose, he's still willing to fight Ulquiorra. So as the fight commences, they're on reasonably like similar grounds. It's actually really like equal in terms of power. But it's the moment that like Ulquiorra goes into his Segunda Etapa that the fight starts to turn into Ulquiorra's favor. Ichigo is getting pummeled by Ulquiorra. Ulquiorra is basically saying, you never should have came here. You should have just let like Lord Aizen's plan go through. It would have been easier on everyone if you just didn't show up. Then Orihime, being the character she is, she yells for Ichigo to get up. Like, just keeps screaming, get up, Ichigo, get up. You have to get up. And it was at that moment that Ichigo kind of gave into his hollow powers. And he was able to, not so much able to, but he tapped into basically fully Hollowfine. He was able to become the equivalent of a vassal lord in order to save Orihime. And it did cost him his actual life. Like, Ichigo officially died in this fight. It was his hollow power that brought him back to life. So he's fighting in his vassal lord form. Ulquiorra's fighting in his Segunda Etapa. And then it gets to the point where Uryu, after his weird fights, his shenanigans in the below the canopy, he comes up and sees Ichigo fight, Ichigo fully hollified, and he's holding Ulquiorra by the wing with half his body missing. Uryu tells Ichigo to snap out of it, and then attacks Ichigo to try and get his mind back to normal. Ichigo throws down Ulquiorra and then just blasts a hole right through Uryu's chest, basically. It was better done in the manga than in the anime, because you can actually, he's charging a Gran Rey Zero using his horns. You see Ulquiorra use basically his spirit energy to form a sword and cut Ichigo's horn, thus causing the Gran Rey Zero to pop off early, hitting both Ichigo and Ulquiorra. But that also causes Ichigo's hole, his hollow hole, to refill, thus bringing him back to life as Ichigo and not as a vassal lord. And so Ulquiorra, he can regenerate his body a certain amount of times because of that's one of his powers. But because of the fight with Ichigo, he was constantly regenerating to the point where his regeneration was getting ridiculously slow. So it gets to the point where Ulquiorra yields because he knows he can't win now, because he can't heal himself fast enough. So Ulquiorra turns to Orihime and says, "Do you fear me?" And Orihime's like, "No, I don't. I have no reason to." So as Ulquiorra then reaches for Orihime, his hand starts to turn to dust, then his arm, and then he finally completely turns to dust. And you could see Ulquiorra like humanize, basically, like for the first time develop human emotion. He was more of a human than Ichigo was when he was a vassal lord. And you see Ichigo, the entire time that Ulquiorra is disintegrating, you see him like realize what he did. He actually he killed someone for pretty much the first time. That was his first death that he was responsible for in a fight, in one of his fights. And after that, he tried to spare his opponent unless they did something absolutely reprehensible, or the only way to beat them was to kill them. So basically, what happened was Ichigo became a hollow, and Ulquiorra became a human at the end of the day, and then you saw this duality shift. So both sides gave into what they weren't expecting, if that makes any sense.
To be honest, I'm kind of been phasing in and out, but yeah, I think
to choose your character.
because I don't follow Bleach I haven't gotten that far in Bleach. But yeah, I think I get the gist of what you're saying.
Okay, next up is what the heck? Is side character battles. So that one can, like I said, cannot include any of the main Straw Hats at the very beginning, but they can join in towards the end or in the middle. So, and this one can also include Wano.
And honestly, my favorite side character fight was during Dressrosa. It was honestly, it was the fight between Gladius and Bartolomeo.
The stage can change.
Okay.
Because as we all know, Barto is a huge fan of Luffy, so he really wanted to prove himself.
Attack with skill, momentum, and power.
And show that he could be a worthy ally to him.
All ready
So,
to go.
So during the whole entire fight, he gave it his all, and he showed that he would be hang on, let me. I'm not really good at talking like this. How do you do so well, man?
I'm just
You're just like the king of improv.
pretty much, yeah.
Jump down. Push it. Oh my gosh.
So the way I see it, Bartolomeo proved himself to be a worthy ally because he was.
I'll tear you down.
Because he showed a lot of grit for being a fanboy. Like he didn't go down as easy as some of the other guys did. As some of the other soon-to-be commanders did. And the reason I say this is because Personally, I think Barto should have been like the first division commander.
Drop down.
Because he shows a lot more admiration for Luffy than Cavendish did. And essentially what I'm getting at here is like in terms of the fight is his holy homage fist. His respect for Luffy is so great that he actually, and his willingness to grow as both a pirate and a follower were so great that he wanted to name one of his own moves after Luffy's own power.
Dive deep. I won't stop. Turn the pressure up.
That's about all I got for that.
Okay.
Yeah. I know my answers aren't. I know my responses aren't as in depth as yours are. How much did you prepare for this?
Not at all. I just have like really good memory for Bleach.
Me neither. Like I remember it all. It's just hard for me to like. It's almost like I'm speaking publicly. It's hard for me to keep the facts straight. Like it's hard to both talk and watch this while knowing I'm on camera.
Attack now. I've got to win. Give it to the pitiful.
So why did you go? So why did you play as Kendo and not?
All right. I got the
Just to kind of switch the outcome.
Oh.
amazing.
So actually, what I want to know is how caught up are you on this show, season 5?
I sit back and like I wait a few episodes before I actually like watch it again, so that way I can binge watch it a little bit, and then that way I can watch like to a certain point subbed and dubbed.
Right then, let's go.
But for my side character fight,
You going to choose from the presets?
I'm actually gonna pick a really like popular fight that a lot of Bleach fans who like have finished the manga series surprisingly enjoyed. And that's going to be, and this is again spoilers for the final arc because that's what I'm going to be talking about.
To the cause.
The captain of 12th Division's Mayuri Kurosuchi versus Pernida, which is basically, if you know what Mayuri is, he's a mad scientist, and then Pernida is literally just a giant hand.
Alright, what should I do?
But he's believed to be a part of the Soul King. So that's where he draws some of his power. He also draws it from being a Quincy.
Such a nobody.
But the entire fight, basically, it also comes down to his fingertips
Get away from me.
and take over any living thing, including Mayuri, Kenpachi, Nemu, or even Mayuri's Bankai, which is a giant baby pretty much. And then he ends up just like Zalaporo ends up eventually killing that, or like completely like deforming part of it because he controls the entire nervous system of that person. So the entire time, like, Mayuri is being pushed to his limits. He has to like come up with a plan that Pernida won't be able to figure out, because as the fight goes on, Pernida is learning. He's actually like speaking more. He starts just by barely speaking. He then picks up Kenpachi's like speaking mannerisms, like how Kenpachi would talk, Pernida talks, and then later in the fight, Pernida then starts talking how Mayuri is very verbose, very intelligent, in depth, and then it basically
Get away.
gets into
Let's do it.
Mayuri loses Nemu because Nemu tries to like shears off her remaining life energy to try and beat Pernida. It doesn't work, And Mayuri's like, we've never seen him like get depressed or like really down, but the moment like Nemu dies, because she basically blows herself up, you see like in his mind only, Xyloporo like, oh, look at you. You belittled me talking about perfection, and here you are saying that this was your perfect creation. You must be very ashamed of yourself, Mayuri Kurosuchi. How could you do something like this? And then Mayuri, like, finally snaps out of it. He's like, you're right, but why am I taking advice from a dead man? And then, like, shoos him away in his mind. And then he finally comes up with a plan to beat Pernida. I'm not gonna quite say what that is because it's creative, but it's also really hard to explain, which is one of the downsides to most of the fights in the 1,000 Year. Well, any Mayuri fight basically is. It's hard to explain how he won. Go to 5.
It's time to choose your character.
Just go to 5, just for fun. So that's why I think Mayuri versus Pernida is the best example of like side character battle, because both parties evolve from each other. It causes both to like think outside their comfort zones and find out what they're willing to do and their beliefs. You know what? Yes, Mineta versus Nomu. Do it. It's gonna be a disaster.
How about choosing a stage?
Alright, next up, pacing. How well... So, and this is just looking at the series as a whole, how well does Oda pace his story? Like, is it too fast? Is it being dragged on a bit too long? What's your take on that?
Personally, I don't think it's being very rushed at all. I mean, like, if you think about it, each arc is kind of like the novel, like in a story. It's like a series of like different like storybooks. Because like each arc has like an introduction to it, like the introduction to certain hang on, it's kind of hard for me to concentrate while I'm trying to fight. You want to take over?
Sure.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at here is like each arc is set up like its own separate like story, like in a series of like novels. So like in the general written novel, like you have like a long introduction, like where you showcase the characters, the settings, what's going on, like a lot of character interactions. And then, right around, like, towards the middle of the story, you start to see, like, some characters, like backstories. And then after that, it's like a mix between the climax fights and seeing more into what the characters are like.
Okay.
And then you have the huge climax, like the penultimate fight. And then you get like a really heartwarming conclusion with like some characters joining up with you, or some characters parting ways with you. And personally, I think the arc that went on the longest was the Dressrosa arc, because there were so many characters introduced in that arc that it took Oda, I admit, a while to cover each of them, but that ultimately helped like move the story along like in a really good way, because they introduced like a lot more characters to help Luffy out during the like the final fight, like when he reaches Laugh Tale and finds the One Piece and possibly has to fight either Blackbeard or Sakazuki. That's why the Straw Hat Grand Fleet was formed, to help him, and like all those gladiators that were introduced. That's why it took him so long to write that arc out. because it had to show each of the future commanders like how well they can fight and see how well they will be able to serve Luffy. And if you think about it, like a lot of their fights, like in the like in the story so far, they're actually like all pretty evenly divided up. Like they all have like their own screen time or panel time in this case. And with some of these characters, thanks to like these 2-week breaks, it gives Oda a little more time to think about how well they can be written in the story, and like what kind of attacks they can do, what their personality can be like.
Yeah! My time has come! Excellent!
All right. So, Bleach has had
It's time to choose your character.
a bit of pacing issues. The biggest issue was
Hurry up and do it!
the Lost Agent arc, because that arc, one character that like had a really overpowered ability was just gone instantaneously, and that's because like they're like, oh, let's just hurry on, let's get to the main fight. We don't care about this character. Yeah, his opponent's like really strong, but we just don't care about that fight. Let's just rush it to the very end. So yeah, Bleach does have pacing issues.
Yeah.
Bleach is, though, honestly, its best paced arc is the entirety of the Arrancar arc, because it shows, like, it focuses on Ichigo's training. It focuses on, well, I say Arrancar arc, but so that consists of everything in Hueco Mundo and Fate Karakura. So basically, when Yami and Ulquiorra land in outside Karakura, all the way to the final fight with Aizen. That's what I'm considering for this arc. It has really good pacing. Like, everything does happen at what would realistically happen in a book or in a movie. Like, the fights are fleshed out. Yeah, we get some, like, teases out people's possible powers.
Can I just point out one thing? This would be a lot more interesting if Nine was in this.
I think he might be another character, because there's still, with Shinso, there's still 4 more other characters
There's
that
still
could be
4
added.
more DLC characters.
Yeah, that they haven't announced yet. So 9 could be possible,
That
or the
would
guy
be
from, or the one,
Turn.
yeah.
Ooh.
Like, we could actually see, like, the movie villains on this game.
Ooh.
But yeah, so, like, it's really well, like, it starts with a reasonable explanation for why the events are going to happen in the arc. There's actually two different, like, climaxes, and that is Ichigo versus Grimmjow in Hueco Mundo as, like, the peak, and then you get the Court Guard companies versus the other Arrancar in Fate Karakura. So basically, you have 2 arcs that Kubo is juggling, like, okay, let's do this, but also give these guys, like, their story. Let's give them their details. So he's basically pacing out 2 different things in one concurrent arc, which kind of does forgive him for what happened with the Fullbring arc. And the ending is believable. It does have really good payoff for both final fights of each arc, I guess. But like it's a satisfying beginning, middle, and end. It's basically it has like a small amount of pacing problems, at the end of the day, the other arcs are able to pick up that slack and kind of cancel that out almost entirely. Alright, gotta turn my phone back on for the list. Alright, next up is paneling. I'm not gonna go too in-depth on Bleach. Like, Kubo's just really good about how he panels his stuff. Like, he prioritizes what he deems needs to be prioritized, and he doesn't give any unnecessary things more space than it needs. So a small bird that like is like for a split second inconsequential, but then like drastically becomes like a really like important like mini plot point. He starts off small and then gives that bird the spacing he needs in that panel, and he can fit on average probably 7 panels a page. Oh, it's such a good fight. Alright, you're up for One Piece.
Alright. I just want to say, from an artist standpoint, both artists do a really good job. Like, both authors do a really good job with their stories, but in my opinion, I think One Piece does a better job with like how, like, considering Oda's artworks, considering Oda's art style, like, he is very loose yet so precise with like his backgrounds, with like his background art. Like, he can show like the most precise amount of line work to, like, say.
You're losing.
I know. I'm aware of that. I'm trying to talk here.
So you can keep going on just again.
Dang.
You got one more.
I do?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because you have to win 3.
Oh, right.
So if you win this, you'll go to round 5.
I'm coming for you. And that.
So.
I'm coming for you.
Pacing paneling. We got about 4 more left to do, but I'm gonna challenge you on the last one. So the last one is gonna be a challenge for both of us.
Alright. But back on the topic of the way Oda handles like the panel work, I feel like the most impactful ones are the ones where he establishes like a full shot of like a character. So like if he does like a close up of Luffy, like he displays like a lot of emotions like in his characters during those shots. And if he does like an attack shot, like he just goes like as loose as he can, like as loose yet precise as he can.
Remember your origins. Take this.
Okay. What?
He basically interrupted your attack.
Oh. Was it like, did the game just glitch?
Speck of trash. So forceful. Stay away. Be gone.
Okay, so we don't have video, but we have audio, so that's not too terribly bad.
Oh.
I'll just edit that and like put some fancy stuff there, I guess.
Oh.
I don't know. Maybe. Or I'll just leave it and make you guys suffer.
Don't do that, man.
Alright, let's go to main menu because we're gonna do 2v2.
Alright.
Oh, it's fine.
Oh.
Okay, so you take that one, I'll take player 1. You're telling me it didn't charge that entire time? Oh, that's fine, I guess.
What? The controller?
Yeah, it didn't charge at all.
Ugh.
That's actually kind of stupid.
Huh.
Oh well.
If you have multiple controllers, you can play
We're just
with
gonna
multiple
do this
people.
again, but we're gonna shrink that down to 2. Alright,
Okay.
so
It's
we're
time
gonna
to
move
choose your
on from
character.
paneling,
Alright.
and we're gonna
It's okay,
we're
take
gonna
it slow.
skip on over to art structure. How well, we kind of touched on that with paneling. Oh, biggest training payoff. I skipped that one.
Oh.
So,
Oh, yeah.
in your opinion, what is Luffy's like most important training that he received? So this one can include Wano, but it doesn't have to.
Well, Luffy's training with Rayleigh, like, it just introduced him to, like, the basics of hockey. Like, he didn't actually learn any of the advanced stuff yet. Like, he learned the basics, but Rayleigh only just told him about the advanced stuff. It was only during his time in the New World that he started to actually see that firsthand.
There's even a day and night mode to
And
stages.
I think the biggest payoff for him was definitely during his training with Hyogoro. Because obviously after his first fight with Kaido, he lost outright. Like, all of his attacks that he did, like, he landed a lot of blows, but they didn't do jack squat. In the long run, they didn't do jack squat. It was then during his time in Udon that Luffy actually started to see advanced armament hockey, or as they call it in Wano, Ryuo. Which, in my opinion, I've always wondered why they always called it that. I think it's like a cultural thing, right?
So basically, the reason why they do that is because just like how in Wano, devil fruits are viewed as magic, hockey there is called Ryuo.
Oh,
Just like as a whole.
huh.
So that's why Oda did it that way. So it is a cultural thing. Because
Yeah.
they are like Wano is shut out from the rest of the One Piece world.
Yeah. Yeah, that is extremely closed borders. But yeah, when we first see Hyogoro, he was introduced as like a feeble old man. But it's what?
Oh, I won.
Oh,
I beat Tetsu Tetsu.
yeah, it was only the first round there, dude. What's the way Tetsu from?
I don't know.
But yeah, it's only during like the punishment fight that Queen issues out with the collars that we start to see what Hyogoro is really made of and exactly what the advanced armament hockey can do. And it was during this time that Luffy actually started to realize that what Rayleigh did when he first showed him the basics was he was actually showing him some advanced techniques. Like with the elephant, he was actually using advanced armament hockey. And when he rescued Kami, he actually used like really quick reflexes, advanced armament, in order to get that collar off of Kami before it exploded. And Luffy was ultimately able to do the same thing with his own collar. And then he came to the realization that he can actually, that maybe that same technique could also work on Kaido. So he started to train himself up so that he can master that technique. And that has worked out pretty well so far for him. Even to the I can't cover like what's currently going on in the fight.
That's entirely up to you. I spoiled some of the final arc of Bleach.
Yeah, and this might be a bit of a spoiler for some of you who are only anime fans. But
You don't have to, I'm gonna try and...
but because of this training with Hyogoro, Luffy actually starts. Oh wait, are you
No, you're still going. Like they can still hear you.
Oh, so during the rooftop fight with, like the cave top fight with Kaido, he actually starts to gain some more insight as to what he can do with his hockey. So, like he actually starts to remember stuff that Rayleigh and Hyogoro said to him about hockey. And Luffy is now able to use his own Conqueror's hockey as like a coating, which I am still trying to figure out how that works. Actually, let's go with Random.
Let's go. Piece of cake.
Not bad.
How about choosing a stage?
Okay.
There's even a day and night mode to stay.
Alright, so for me, for Bleach, I would probably so Ichigo has 3 main training arcs in the series. He has his Bankai training with Kisuke / Yoruichi. He has his training in the Dangai to beat Aizen, but he also has his training in the Royal Palace. More specifically, though, I'm picking the training in the Royal Palace for one simple reason. He finally realizes through this training who he actually is, because his mom is a Quincy, his dad is a Soul Reaper. His mom had...
Wait, who are we talking about? Ichigo?
Yeah, Ichigo. Because it's the main character.
Wait, his mom was a Quincy?
His mom was the last, was one of the last, Kurosaki Quincy's.
Oh. Huh.
But, while Ichigo's mom was saving his dad, she was basically injected with hollow power, which is, and hollows are the exact opposites to Quincy. So the hollow blood is toxic to Quincy blood.
Oh.
It's showtime.
So what happened, and that's why Ichigo has hollow power in him. He got that also mixed in with the birthing process of Ichigo, pretty much. So he has Shinigami powers, Quincy powers, and hollow powers. But because of that, he didn't actually have a true Zanpakuto. He couldn't get his true Zanpakuto until he came to terms with who he actually was. So once he did come to terms with, oh hey, I am pretty much every major race, that's why I have why things happen to me the way they do, why I've been able to see ghosts my entire life. And after he comes to terms with that, he goes back to the Royal Palace, gets his true Zanpakuto, and he finally gets his true power. It's not until his final fight where he loses the power he just gained from the training that he's able to tap into his actual pure power that is strictly his and his alone, without the help of Quincy or hollow power, his own Soul Reaper power. So his training in the Royal Palace, if that wouldn't have happened, he never would have been able to access his own true power.
Sending me that far ahead?
And that's why I think that training is the most important for Ichigo. Alright. We touched a bit on arc structure, how I did anyway, for that. He kind of did too, so I'm just gonna skip over that. I don't really feel like covering power levels and power creep, because that's an entire that would be a whole other video.
Yeah, I agree.
So, emotional ties. I'm gonna challenge you a bit with this one, Logan.
Yeah?
I'm going to pick, because this is my channel, I'm going to pick one moment from One Piece that I think is the most emotional and you have to explain why it is. So, what I could pick is not really what you believe, but this will test to see if you can, given restrictions, still prove that One Piece is better. Are you ready?
Sure, shoot me.
Alright, the moment I'm picking...
Putting it all on the line.
Wait, should I explain why that's such a pivotal moment?
Yes, like, basically, you explain, like, how Oda was able to, like, emotionally tie you to a ship, and why, like, you actually felt for, like, you felt like you were a Straw Hat, losing your ship. That's what you have to try and do.
Well, the way I see it, Oda made that so impactful because this. Well, for one thing, the Straw Hats aren't like the rest of the other pirates in the world. They're not heartless. Like, they actually value, like, their comrades, and in turn, that also includes their ship.
Okay.
Skip my.
No, I'll just take over the fight. Anything else?
Hang on, I'm thinking here.
And the battle for Deku's love is over.
Yep. Although technically, Kami doesn't really count.
No, but I mean she does because Toga was her, so yeah.
Yeah. But, nah. If anything, I think of her as a match for Bakugo. Hey, Shoto already has Momo.
Yeah, but I don't really see Kami
It's
as
time
like.
to choose your character.
But back to the main topic.
It's good. I don't like it.
They-
It's good. I don't like it. How about choosing a stage? There's even a day and night mode to
Like
stages.
the whole entire Water 7 arc just shows how much value like the Mary has to
Come at me with all you
not
got,
all of them, but
Ninja
particularly
Tom.
one of them. Particularly one of the Straw Hats, Usopp. Because
Come at me with
Usopp
all
is
you
essentially
got,
like
Ninja Tom.
Usopp during the whole entire arc was feeling a whole lot of insecurities about himself. Like he thought he wasn't as strong as the other one, so he didn't want to part ways with the Mary. Whereas everyone else just thought of the Mary as just like a regular ship. But then right around when they were starting to leave Ennie's lobby and they were rescued by the Mary, they soon realized just how much potential that she still had. Like she was able to still keep going. And that kind of made them realize that they were kind of in the wrong. And so they were trying so hard to get Iceberg and the rest of the Galley Law Company to help them repair her, even while knowing that she wasn't really gonna make it. But it was after, I think it was after what Iceberg, but after what Iceberg said, like he told them to let her rest. Like Luffy ultimately realized that they had to let her go. And I think the most impactful part of that scene was the fact that the Mary started talking. Like while she was burning, she actually started, in a way, talking to like Luffy and the others. Like apologizing for not being able to go that much further. And Luffy was talking about how like they took poor care of her, like they should have treated her a little bit better.
Okay.
And they're actually starting to like not take her for granted. Because I guess what I'm trying to say is they saw the Mary as more than a ship. They saw her as like a really close friend that they've known and had for so long. that they didn't want to really part ways with her.
Alright, I wonder if this is okay.
And that ultimately gives them all the drive. And her funeral essentially gives them all the drive to have each other's backs from now on. Like they're much more than a pirate crew with their own personal goals. They were like a really close group of friends that had each other's backs. And they wanted to support each other and help them achieve those goals. And they knew... And that will was essentially imbued into the Sunny. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Alright.
Anything you'd like to say?
I'm dropping down.
No, I don't really have anything that needs to be said.
Oh, alright. I didn't know if you'd have anything like in rebuttal. Like after...
Oh, that fight was so close. Nope.
No rebuttals?
Nope.
Oh.
I'd have... So for Bleach... Bleach isn't really a series with, like...
sad moments?
With sad moments. However, there is one that immediately comes to mind. Simply because we see a character who's like... who has never once cried finally break because...
Is it Ichigo?
It is not Ichigo, actually.
But he does cry though, doesn't he?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So, it's Kenpachi. Kenpachi Zaraki actually cries.
Wait, Kenpachi? He's the guy with the
He's the guy
bead-
with the eye patch.
and the like those little beads on the ends
Yeah,
of his
the
hair.
bells.
Okay. Oh, they were bells?
Yeah, they were bells. So basically, because Kenpachi ended up fighting the big boss, the Quincy's, but he got off-screen beaten, and we just see like the King of the Quincy's just dangling Kenpachi's like basically knocked out body just over the ground, and he's like, there was no threat here. I don't know why I was so afraid of him. So the new Captain Commander, after the previous one dies, is like, okay, we need to teach Kenpachi. We need to teach Kenpachi how to use his Zanpakuto correctly. So what his Zanpakuto's name is, and help him get access to his Bankai. Because Kenpachi is the only captain who got that position without having a Bankai, which is one of the requirements to be a captain. So he then ends up fighting the captain of 4th Company, Retsu Unohana, the healer, like the captain of the medicinal division. It's revealed that she was also a Kenpachi, because the title of Kenpachi is handed down to the strongest. But as the fight goes on, Kenpachi keeps losing and dying. But because of Unohana, she keeps bringing him back to life, because she developed a special healing technique to do specifically this. So as the fight progresses, you see Kenpachi, he calls it blacking out, but it's actually dying. He officially dies and just keeps coming back. But it gets to the point where Kenpachi finally beats Unohana, and it's and she's like, there's no more I can do. You're ready to learn your Zanpakuto's name. And then she ends up dying, but you see Kenpachi, who's probably physically the strongest captain in the Gotei 13, holding her corpse, and crying, hey, don't go. You can't do this. We still have to fight. I'm not satisfied yet. Don't go. What are you doing? And actually breaking down. And he doesn't stop crying until he hears the voice of his Zanpakuto. But even still, he still carries that weight of, oh hey, I killed the only person who can go toe-to-toe with me. I don't really have anything left to fight, do now. because there's no real challenge anymore. And then he does end up getting a challenge, a couple actual really good fights later on, which also has another emotional moment tied to him of losing another person that he's been with his entire life, which I'm not going to go into, but that is also a really impact. Kenpachi is basically, he goes through a lot of emotion. Like, he gets so much emotional moments that he deserves to be considered the most emotional character in Bleach. Basically. That's what I'm going for, anyway. Alright. So, now I'm going to say, like, the thing we talked about, and then you're gonna say who did a better job presenting their case for that, and then we'll give that person a point. Okay?
Yeah. Right. I'm just so focused on this game.
Alright, so main character growth. Who do you think did better? Explain. So you did. What character did you pick for your growth? You picked Luffy.
Yeah.
I picked Rukia. Who do you think did a better job and had more, like, who actually did have, like, better growth, in your opinion, based on what both of us said?
I said there was a lot more that I could have gone into, but, like I said, I'm never good at talking like this, so, like, a lot of thoughts were just circling around, and I had to pick one that I could, and pick the ones that I could. But, if I had included, like him getting separated from the crew, like essentially the whole Marineford War, like the whole Marineford War saga, yeah, I think I would have made a much more convincing case.
Okay.
But wait, is it too late to mention those now, or could I still?
We can come back to those on, like, another video.
Okay, yeah.
So, who do you think had the better...
Good. I think you did, because you went into a whole lot of detail, like a whole lot more than I did.
Yeah, I've read Bleach. I'll admit, I have read Bleach 7 times in its entirety. I also will admit I willingly skip the filler arcs because I'm not a huge filler fan.
Yeah.
But I think once the final arc gets animated, I will go back and watch the filler arcs. Next up was
main character fights.
Main character battle. So far, Bleach has 1 point.
I think I did pretty good because
you actually did really good. Like,
yeah.
Cause yeah, like for mine, cause I picked Ichigo versus.
Who's that?
I don't know. This is weird. I don't know what's going on.
Special guest.
That's weird. I'm confused.
Match though. Dang, this game is pretty good.
It's time to choose your character.
The main host, Tim, will be back shortly.
What is the meaning behind this?
Alright, I'm back. It was just a question about the house. Inconsequential. Okay, so in terms of main character battles, One Piece does get that point. I will concede that to One Piece.
Take your time and choose wisely.
Alright, next up, side character battles. So for that, I picked Kisuke versus Pernida, the giant hand, by the way, in case you guys forgot, because this has been a very long stream.
And I picked Barto, aka Cannibal, aka Roosterhead, versus Gladius.
So, based on what we said, which fight do you think was the better fight?
Well, I want to say mine. Oh.
Just to kind of...
Take your time and choose wisely.
That was a fight I could have really gone into, but I
choosing
chose
a
not
stage?
to.
Oh, really?
There's another like bigger fight. Oh, so yeah, the fight between Kenpachi and Inohana.
Oh.
So like, so yeah. What was that? It definitely seemed like I blacked out. So like I lost consciousness again and again. I lose consciousness during the fight, only to find myself back in it. So yeah, okay, that's training. What is it? The problem is having all these omnibus that...
This is heaven. Just like that.
That's the Fem Ritter, that's Remy.
What the?
Oh, that's...
I'll take that.
Okay, that's like the zombies.
Just a little more.
Shuffle.
Stealing you off. What the hell?
It was that, maybe it might be in I will find this. This is actually really hard to find because I can't remember like exactly where it happens. Lilibaro versus Scorpion. Oh, here we go. I found it.
Just like that. It is here and now.
Alright, guys, keep finding it so I can actually find like a good picture of it. Of him. Okay. Seriously, why is it so hard to find a good picture of Pernida? Oh, okay, here we go. So that's what he looks like. He's literally just a giant hand.
Oh. So he's like Master Hand, but actually with an eyeball.
Pretty much. Okay.
Okay, quick question. How do I pull up ultimate moves in this?
I can't remember. It's been so long since I finished. But this is what Pernida looks like. So yes, I do have the source material. That's what I'm going off. Because I have the entire, like, blood war. Okay. Personally, I feel like Bleach had the better, like, side character fight. Because yes, One Piece, like, it was a good fight. It was more so one character trying to prove their worth rather than, like, a fight to, like, where the consequence would be death. Oh. That fight, there were no real stakes in Bartolomeo's fight. Like, he just would have, like, fallen off the stage pretty much.
Oh.
So that's why I think
that wasn't in the Coliseum fight.
Oh, you're talking about the other fight? I still don't think there were like
the barrier barrier pistol.
Yeah, I still don't think there were like actual stakes for that though.
When Pika uses his powers, then everyone just gets split up.
I don't think though. I don't think Bartolomeo would have died though, which is why that kind of for me kind of holds it back because there is no real stakes.
Oh yeah. But like as a collective whole, like all the future Straw Hat Grand Fleet members actually like proved their mettle.
They did have good fights.
Yeah.
Now I could go like on and on about different side character fights and explain why they are so good. But I think for that one, I'd still give a point to Bleach because there are actual stakes in that fight. Whereas in my opinion, if the fight would have ended the other way, I don't think Bartolomeo would have died. I think he just would have been knocked out of commission.
Yeah.
So where do you give your point to?
Don't be a failure.
Hang on.
I gotta get a drink.
Whose outfit should we change?
pacing's gonna be a fun one because I have some stuff I want to say about One Piece's pacing.
Really?
Oh yeah. And this is gonna get a lot of flack, but it's the truth. Okay, so
This ain't so bad.
I'm just gonna give the side character battles a draw,
Yeah.
just so that way it's kind of fair, I guess. All right, pacing. Yes, Bleach had for one arc had pacing problems. It was rushed. One Piece's current arc of Wano is in a lot of spots rushed. It seems like Oda is rushing way too close, way too fast, to the final fight between Luffy and Kaido. Certain fights could be drug out a bit longer, but instead it's this fight's gonna be extremely one-sided. It's gonna be close, but it's only gonna last a couple chapters. There could be more fleshing out Oda could do. It just seems like he's rushing way too fast into the final confrontation. Because with One Piece, there isn't really a set deadline to when it has to be, the entire series has to be done by. So that gives Oda a little bit of leniency on slowing down his story, explaining things a bit more, doing a couple more flashbacks. Basically, that's just my take on it.
So what you're saying is, a lot of the stuff that's going on in Wano is a bit rushed. You mean?
Yes, he in my opinion, he's kind of rushing it.
But in past story arcs, there was no rushing at all.
Well, there was. For instance, one that I can take right off the top of my head was towards the middle of Water 7, where Iceberg is shot. They could have actually fleshed out a little bit more on why exactly Luffy specifically was targeted by Galila rather than say Zoro or even Usopp, who is a sniper. So you'd be oh hey, this guy is the sniper. He seems more likely to shoot someone rather than the captain, who only punches and kicks people and probably doesn't even know how to use a gun. It doesn't quite make sense, and it's kind of Luffy, your fault. It's your fault. You're the captain. It's your fault. You don't know how to shoot a gun. It's still your fault. It could have been drug out a bit more, the thought process of Galila, instead of and they didn't really listen to Iceberg. They just oh hey, Nico Robin is here, let's go terrorize Luffy. There was no real thought process, which kind of rushed it.
Oh.
But the Marineford arc does do a really good job of properly giving characters fights how long they need to be. However, that still doesn't save it. Save the other two examples I gave. It doesn't really save the series from those two.
Well.
So I'm giving my point to Bleach again, because its other arcs do make up for the fact of one really rushed mini arc that we really could have done with could have either been expanded or just completely done away with. But for One Piece, you needed all of that to still have a coherent story.
Whose outfit should we change?
So what do you give your point to?
Personally, I want to give mine to my side. I want to give a point to my side because I think I did. Because I think it was pretty convincing in the way that I described each of the arcs as their own separate novels.
I should really be writing down points, but I have the memories, I just should be writing them down.
Yeah, I think So far, we're at a tie?
Yes, we are at a tie. Oh, this paper's not really important, so I'm just
The
gonna write on the back of
attire
it.
of the beacons shining in the darkness.
Hey,
Darkness chicken!
I'm gonna customize the chicken.
Nope, you don't get to.
What?
That's me, that's me.
Ah,
You have to pick another character. Only I can customize that. Here, just go up.
I know.
Okay. So,
Oh, wait.
Whose outfit should we change?
Bleach, OP. And if we do end up in a tie, I do have 2 tiebreakers.
I'm gonna customize Shiggy.
gonna make me look cool.
Okay, so Bleach has 1, One Piece has 1.
I'm gonna give Shigaraki one of his hands back. Wait, what the?
That's so that's the like body costume.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Okay, so side character battles, that was a point for each. Pacing, point for each.
Hey. Giving him one of his hands back.
Okay, paneling.
Making
I'm
the
gonna have to
gorgeous.
give. I'm probably gonna have to give that to. I'm probably gonna have to give that to One Piece.
Paneling?
Yeah. In my opinion, yes, Kubo does a good job, but like Kubo's big thing is like close-ups. Oda, like, what gets him the point, in my opinion, is like his use of backgrounds. Even though
Yeah.
that's not even Oda doing it, he still gets the credit because manga authors have specific people do the backgrounds.
Really?
With the exception
I always
Ju-
thought that was Oda, like that also did the background.
not really.
Oh.
He'll draw them out, but he won't do the shading of it.
Oh, but like, does he do like the precise line work of it all?
Like, well, that'd be the shading in the black and white manga.
Oh,
So like he basically Oda, the only thing he really does would be the characters. But the only exception to that rule is Toyotaro with the Dragon Ball Super manga, because he does everything.
oh, okay.
Like he does the character design, the paneling, the speed lines, all that.
Oh, okay. Oh, good lord! Oh no!
That is terrifying.
Oh no! Why is that the thing?
I don't know, but that's actually really funny.
I want to wait. What is?
Okay. What about you? What would you give paneling the point to?
I'd give it the One Piece.
Alright, so that's 5 to One Piece. Alright, biggest training payoff. I am gonna give that to Bleach because you don't have the final arc without, like, you don't really have the final arc without that training.
Oh,
Like-
yeah, that's true.
You have to have that happen in order for the end, so it makes sense to have it.
Ah.
So Bleach does get a point from me. What about you? The one thing I'm going to say about what you said is you can take out his training with Hyogoro and still have the story. He would just learn as he fought rather than being trained how to do it. So that training could be taken out and still have the story make sense. That's why I gave Bleach my point.
Yeah, now that I think about it, like, essentially, Luffy has only had, like, one huge training arc.
Yeah, and you can't really count the flashback with Sabo and Ace as training, even though it kind of
Even though it
was
kind of
training.
does.
It's not a
kinda
big
was
training thing.
Yeah, it was just, like, showing in the ropes.
Shall we cut loose?
What's wrong with this missions thing?
Okay, so what do you give your
I,
training point to?
Mission mode is a fantastical mode that lets you make an all-star agency. Here you can mix and match all sorts of heroes and villains alike. With your team assembled, you can participate in many missions like patrols or sweep outs. You can increase each character's scouting or assisting stats at the office too. If a character's assist level
Should I
drops to
just skip?
0, then
Yeah,
that
just
character
skip it.
if you
And then hit.
Let's
Here we
see.
go.
Where should I begin?
But you know,
Let's clear that mission.
I think I'd have to give the point to
I have
the
to
Bleach.
get it down.
Alright. 5. The current standing is 5-5. It's actually close.
Yeah.
Arc structure.
Did we cover arc structure?
So we did that with pacing.
Oh yeah.
So that basically gets that point. So
It's a tie again.
it's a tie again for that one.
Ugh.
So 6-6. We didn't do power levels or power creep.
Yeah, we saved that for another video.
Emotional
Clear that
ties.
mission. Where to go now?
So
Like, you really threw me for a loop there.
I did.
Yeah, because it's like you talked about Water 7, I was like, wait, you're not talking about Usopp coming back, are you? It's like, to me, that's what got me during that whole arc.
But
That's
also
what
with
got me.
But also with Water 7, I could have gone with Usopp coming back, or the fight between Usopp and Luffy. I could have gone like multiple different ways.
Yeah, you could.
But I decided to go with Mary.
Oh. Because, like, if you were talking about Usopp coming back, I would have had a whole lot more to say. But, And honestly, like, the whole Mary thing did get me emotional, but not to the point of, but not exactly to, like, the point of tears.
Okay, I cried during the Mary scene. And I don't even know why I'm rewatching Water 7 and Ennis Lobby.
It's Ennis Lobby.
I say Ennis Lobby, because that's how a lot of people say it. But it is one of my favorite arcs, so that's why I'm watching it again. But I'm still gonna have, like, based on what I said and what he said, I'd have to say again, Bleach gets that point because we see a character who, like, never cries, like, for the first time ever, actually break on an emotional level. We've seen the Straw Hats, like, yeah, we have that feeling of losing to Mary, but we've seen, like, the Straw Hats lose stuff before.
But actually, on the topic of seeing a character actually break, there's actually one character in the whole entire series we've actually seen legit break down. Zoro.
Not really. Zoro's not the only one.
Who else then?
So we also have,
Like, in terms of the main characters.
yeah, we also have Luffy when Ace died.
And Luffy's cried before.
Well, no, but like, because that was his first, like, that's when he actually broke. Because he lost his brother.
Yeah.
And then Robin, the whole, I want to live. Like, she was so stoic, her actually bursting into tears and saying, no, I do want to live. I don't want to die. Please frickin' save me. Like, yeah, she did break in her form of breaking.
Yeah.
Zoro, kinda, but not as, like, it wasn't as impactful as losing a brother or, like, regaining your will to live. That's why I don't really see Zoro as, like, having the bigger...
Honestly, to this
breaking.
day, I am still waiting for Zoro to have another breaking point.
I personally don't think he will. I don't care, Konosuba game. Stop it. Yeah, I don't know why there's a Konosuba mobile game, but it's pretty fun.
You actually got that game?
Yeah. And you actually, like, somewhat play through the story. It's weird. It's a strange game. I'm probably gonna end up deleting it though, because it takes up space. And I only, like, do my login stuff and just claim that.
So I still think I'd give the point to me.
begin?
I'm still gonna have to give it to Bleach.
Ugh.
Because yeah, like I said, we see like this very like strong masculine character actually like break and give
You can have
in to
multiple
emotion.
controllers. You can play with multiple people.
So,
It's time
in
to
terms
choose
of
your
a
character.
tiebreaker, I have a
Be a great
couple.
weapon in battle.
So what we're gonna do is I'm going
Ooh,
to.
hey, check it out.
I don't know which
I mean, that could be an interesting fight. I'm going
The
to
ultimate waifu battle.
Okay.
In their universe, that is.
I'm going to roll a dice. Even we go with one, odd we go with another. Okay. So
Here we go,
this is actually metal. Like it's a metal
wanna
dice.
save others. I want to be
Metal
a hero
die.
that can save
Okay, so
everyone.
evens we go
The
run
time
one
has
route,
come for my
kill.
babies to take
Evens we
over.
go one route, odds we go the other. 3, it's an odd. Okay. So for this one, we are going to go into
No. This
the
doesn't count.
anime.
Oh,
We're doing
My
we're
job
gonna
to
compare the
show
anime.
is fine.
okay.
However, this is where it gets fun.
Yeah.
We're going to take
Here's my first
the
goal.
worst filler arc of both,
Oh,
and whichever is better wins, basically.
Oh.
So whichever has the
So many
whichever is so bad it's good
boosters up.
gets the point.
and do I get to choose which arc it is?
You get to choose
Because
what
I haven't
filler-
seen a whole lot of. Because it's been a while since I've seen a whole lot of the filler arcs.
So basically, the two big important ones are
Long Ring, Long Land.
well the G6 and the Foxy Pirates. That's basically what those are the two big ones.
Oh,
Those are the two big filler arcs. Is G6 and Foxy. That's sad.
What? What are you talking?
Because like yeah, G6 is good, and I hate Foxy, but it's actually like it introduces us to something that has been like is in the universe.
And what would that be?
The Davy back fights, because we know.
Yeah, I'll go with that one then.
Because we had Roger do the Davy back fights. We know that for a fact. Like he did a bunch of Davy back fights. I would have. So Bleach only had 3 filler arcs.
The Bounce arc.
They had the Bounce arc. They had.
Would you call that one bad?
I mean, when it comes to Bleach's filler, the stuff I know what happens in them, what they are. I'm indifferent on the Bounce arc. It's a stupid concept, and maybe if it was executed differently, it could have been better. There's also the Forest of Menos, which could have been like altogether scrapped because yeah, that was just bad. Oh hey. Ichigo and the group fall into a thing of sand, and now there's a bunch of Menos and this random Soul Reaper who's got a skull on his arm. And then Ichigo learns the Getsuga Dai Tensho, and it's never talked about again.
Is it okay if I have some of that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Sweet.
And then you had the Zanpakuto Rebellion arc, which is actually the best filler arc.
I'll take 2 of these.
Okay, that's fine.
Sweet.
You lost. Wait, who are you?
I was Uraraka.
Okay. So
What would you say? What would you have said if I said I was Hatsume?
I mean, either way, I'm upset you lost because
It's time to choose your character.
both of them have had a reason they could have won. But we're gonna have some fun.
Okay.
I'll go. Is foresight
Oh, dear.
necessary? Why, you ask? Because I am here.
Okay, so
Get to be energetic.
I'm gonna have to probably pick the Force of Manos arc as Bleach's worst filler
Time now.
because
Because I am here.
it basically spaced. Actually, no, there's another.
All right.
See,
Let's begin.
they didn't have really filler arcs. They just had filler moments, such as everything with Don Kanonji and Kon and Karkarizer and all that.
You think I'm
So yeah, I'm gonna have to say the Force of Manos is Bleach's worst filler arc. And it basically like serves no, like there is no like story to like, there's like it doesn't affect anything in the story. Whereas for the Foxy like for Foxy's, it does like hint back at past events in the One Piece world.
Past traditions.
Yeah.
And for me, honestly, I kind of enjoyed the Long Ring Long. I enjoyed the Long Ring Long Land arc. I thought it was kind of amusing. Particularly Luffy's fight with Foxy. It was kind of funny in parts.
Round 2, ready, clash!
Okay. I like I said, I just don't like the idea of Foxy as a character, because he took something that you could view as sacred to pirates and completely just destroyed it. And then that's why I just like I have a problem with Foxy. Like yeah, Foxy has some cool crewmates, but like crewmates do not redeem him of him existing.
No.
The future doesn't change.
So I'd have to say the best worst arc, because it does like actually it ties in. It doesn't, because it doesn't tie in. Bleach does get the worst best, because yeah, Foxy's does like set up something that does happen, and it is explained like more later on.
Remember your origins. And that.
Oh, I missed.
Just getting stuck. I won't perish. No fear.
I think actually I could see Night Eye like coming to Strongest Hero. Ooh, the other close fight. Okay, so yeah, I'm like I said, I'm giving my point to Bleach because it can do without it. Because if you did take out Foxy's filler in the anime, you would still eventually like get some explanation as to what a Davy back fight is. So where do you give your point?
Yeah, I gotta admit, I'll have to give a point to Bleach because, like, the worst arc for me was the Bound arc because I'm still on it and I'm still confused as to what's going on by it.
Yeah.
But so, because aren't the Bounds essentially like vampires?
Yeah. It's like I said, it's weird.
Yeah, that, like, it's so weird that it's actually kind of cruddy. So,
Because of filler and how notoriously bad filler is associated to be an anime, that means Bleach won because of stupid filler. Wow.
Yeah.
That is actually like
he won by filler.
That's actually really funny.
He won by.
Hey, and I've beaten Night Eye. Let's go. Well, you probably can't see this, but I'm just gonna like.
He won by excess content.
Yes. Literally the other thing
by wasted content that serves no point to the overall story.
Oh, if it were even, if it would have rolled evens, it would have been filler. I mean, not filler, OPs.
Oh.
Like basically, which had the best OP. Which,
in my opinion, my favorite one in One Piece is Over the Top.
That is not the best, in my opinion.
Which one is it then?
For me, it's a tie between We Are.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I forgot about that one.
And
it's a classic, and it's so forgotten.
And Enies Lobby, because you see like everyone like not Enies Lobby Watch Time. You see everyone falling out of the sky. You see like Usopp trying to like swim back up in the air. Sigh, like give a sigh of relief, and then just falls.
Oh.
And you actually like feel emotion to it. Bleach is like my favorite Bleach opening is.
You don't mind if I have another one?
No, that's fine.
All right.
Is opening 16 Ranbu no Melody, because it's basically like it is more popular with fans like, oh, like if they could hear it in the background, like someone else playing, they'd be like, oh hey, that's from Bleach. That's from Bleach. Whereas if you played like We Are, like, okay, that could be from a couple different, like if you didn't know. But Ranbu no Melody, like even like Ranbu no Melody did make an appearance in the PS3 Bleach game, Bleach Soul Resurrection, which is by far the best Bleach game. I'm just waiting for them to give us a new Bleach game.
You know, I had a thought.
Please.
You know, actually, I had a thought not too long ago, and
What?
have you ever noticed that there's not a whole lot of Full Metal Alchemist games?
There's actually a couple Game Boy games.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, they don't have a game on Brotherhood.
So they have one on, they have one on Game Boy, one on DS. I want to say. Yeah, there is. There's one on Game Boy, and technically the one on Game Boy is Brotherhood, technically. Because I played through both of them, and the DS one, like, that one focuses more on the original anime, rather than Brotherhood. And then Bleach has a bunch of DS games, Game Boy games, and actually, Bleach has a mobile game. FMA does not.
Yeah. Like, I think it would be cool if they had an HD Full Metal Alchemist like 3D game like this.
Yeah. Well, you're limited with what you can do with Full Metal Alchemist, though. Like
What do you mean?
you can't really do a lot without like taking away some of its like quality. Cause like you have a distinct feeling with Full Metal Alchemist, whereas like games like shows like Naruto, Dragon Ball, My Hero, like they can work in this style of like game, like this almost closer to anime looking game.
Oh.
And that's why, in like my opinion, the from at least from what I've seen, why the Demon Slayer game, like I'm kind of like turned away from that. Because yes, they do take like the beauty of Demon Slayer does transfer over to the game.
Yeah, I will
But
admit, like, its graphics are really good.
But it doesn't really. It doesn't entirely work.
It doesn't capture the soul of the of this actual content.
And that's why I don't think like Brotherhood should get like an HD game, because then it would take away from that quality that we know
like
and
that,
love.
from that really dark, from that really dark theme. That we get from the anime.
Yeah. Or if they did like, I mean, yeah, you could do like a battle type like this, but there's not really that many, like, the roster for FMA that you can use isn't as big as this.
Wow.
So you're like, at some point, you're gonna have to draw in from like the movies or from Full Metal Alchemist. Like, you're gonna have to draw in from the other two sources. And then that'd be like, oh well, I didn't like the original Full Metal Alchemist, or I didn't like what was it, Guardians of Shambhala, or whatever. That
Conquerors of Shambhala.
Yeah, Conquerors of Shambhala. Like,
and the Sacred Star of Milos.
yeah, and a lot of people didn't like the FMA movies, which is understandable. I'm indifferent on them, but that's just because I've seen both, and I prefer Brotherhood. I've read Full Metal Alchemist.
I prefer Brotherhood over the original anime, mainly because, well, for one thing, at the time that the anime was being done, the manga wasn't done yet.
Yeah.
So they had to go completely original for the rest of the show. And that's what made it so confusing to me. Like they introduced a lot of good stuff, but then right around when was it? Like right after they introduced Izumi, that they started to go off script?
Well, for me, like my biggest problem with the original Full Metal Alchemist was bringing their mom into it as a homunculus.
Yeah, that
That's
part.
where I draw the that's why
Yeah.
I did stop watching after I saw that, and I'm like, okay.
I just kept on watching it.
Well,
I wanted to see it all the way through.
I stopped for like a couple months, and I'm like, I'm gonna finish this. I don't care how terrible it is. I will finish this. And I regret finishing it. I just didn't like the original Full Metal Alchemist. But yeah, Bleach should definitely get a game. Based on our biased/unbiased opinions, Bleach is a better series.
But in my opinion, they're both really
both
great.
really good.
They're both really great. But to each their own. I think it's. But to my opinion, to each their own. I think One Piece is superior to Bleach.
But Bleach did have the better movies. But we'll save that for another one because I can go.
No. I think One Piece had better movies. I think One Piece had better movies, man.
Nope. And here's the reason why I say no. Because most of their movies are just rehashes of arcs. Which is why the Dragon Ball movies aren't really that good.
Wait, Bleach's movies are rehashes?
No, One Piece's. Because that's why they have so many movies. Because some of their movies just retell certain arcs a different way.
It's only 2 of them.
No, there's more than 2.
There's the Alabasta arc, there's the Drum Island. There's Alabasta, there's Drum Island, oh yeah, and there's Enies Lobby.
Yeah. There are changes. And then the only like 3 good ones that One Piece has are
Stampede.
Z, Gold, and Stampede.
Yeah, everything from the New World. Oh wait, what about Strong World?
I didn't really like Strong World. Like, yeah, Shiki was cool. And Shiki is canon. I'm personally tired of the damsel in distress plot point in anime. So Nami being kidnapped because she's a navigator, that drew me away from the movie. There wasn't really like kidnapping in film Z or film Gold. Well, I mean Gold technically because everyone who lost was technically kidnapped.
Yeah, they were all essentially slaves to Tezzoro because they're all coated in gold.
Yeah, and then Stampede was basically just a bunch of fan service.
Yeah, it was essentially everybody. Essentially, it was like everybody that we know facing off against just one dude.
Yeah, and a bunch of cameos. Whereas,
yeah, i.e. Foxy and Wapple.
Yeah, and Kami and Hachi.
Yeah, and actually, if you go back and look, there's a whole lot of other characters that they brought back into it.
Well, because it's their anniversary movie.
Yeah,
but
and that's what made it so good.
Bleach has 4 movies. They have Diamond Dust Rebellion, Memories of Nobody, Fade to Black, and Hellverse. With Diamond Dust Rebellion, in my opinion, being kind of the weaker, but also at the same time the strongest. I personally prefer Fade to Black because it gives us more of an explanation on Rukia's backstory, even if it's not fully canon. We are able to associate more with Rukia, and you do get emotionally tied, because you're as humans, we need bonds with people in order to fill some basic human needs. Fade to Black takes that and removes that from characters, and the movie is about fighting to get back those bonds, which is why it's, in my opinion, the better of the Bleach movies. And that's movie number 3. Anime movies are good, but it's a fine line between completely ruining a series and actually making it good. One example of ruining a series, and I will, any complaints you have with what I'm about to say, leave it in the comments and I will reply to each and every one of them.
What movie are you talking about here?
Demon Slayer Mugen Train would have been better, not as a movie, but as its own arc. Because then we could have gotten
For the record, I have not seen the movie yet.
Do you know the Mugen Train story? Okay, so basically everything that happens in the movie Mugen Train is it's its own arc.
Oh.
Like it's a canon arc, so it's a canon movie. They just shrank an entire arc into a movie.
Ah.
And it could have done, in my opinion, without it, and we could have had like an original movie with a new villain, but still like had a demon and still had like Inosuke get a moment, Tanjiro get a moment, everyone get a moment, and you don't really like. Yeah, the main focus is the Flame Hashira. You don't really like, unless you read it, and you know what like the entire story. You don't really feel that connection with him in the movie. You kind of lose that.
Yeah.
That's why I think like it would be better as like episodic, like an episodic release. I mean, it doesn't truly ruin it. It just could have been better not existing as a movie, instead as like a season 2, and make this new season 3. But that's just my take on the Demon Slayer movie.
Ah.
But yeah, I'm going to end the stream here. Like I said at the beginning, if you have other like anime you want me to watch a couple episodes of and compare it to another anime, leave that below. If you want to complain about me for being right about the Demon Slayer movie, leave that below, and I'll tell you you're wrong. If there's something that we didn't mention about Bleach or One Piece, leave that below.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you my thoughts on it, and I'll make up his thoughts on it just so it seems like an actual conversation.
You're so weird, dude.
I am, but that's why like my channel's fun, because I'm not like most.
He's quirky.
Yes.
Let's just go with that. He's quirky.
And it's
He's quirky.
And there's no like
quirky
no pun
Timmy.
intended, because we're playing a My Hero game that you can't even see because my internet it doesn't like me specifically. Also, I gotta turn off my AC because it's 74 in the house and it's at 69. So my AC is going off. This stream is ending. Good freaking bye!